We'll want to watch this. So the things that will be on the progress report next Monday will be the summer assignment grade that's already in the grade book, the chapter 1 worksheet that we did, which is also already in the grade book, the AP class commitment /AP classroom sign up is a grade. Also, the chapter 2 character and setting that was due on Saturday, I'll be grading that this week. And the last thing that will go in before the progress report will be your average on the formatives. We're going to talk about some of those things today. So there'll be 5 grades in the grade book for the progress report next week. The reason I mention that is not just for our class, but also for the other classes too. So make sure that you double check with everything when your other classes, and hopefully your progress report will go well. Also, I'm supposed to talk today about the survey that went out last week. I know that you know that we're moving toward a hybrid type schedule for those who would like to go back to school. If you want to stay on virtual learning, you can do that all year. But if you wanted to start getting back into the school building, they're going to start a hybrid format in the next few weeks, and then scaling in more students as the weeks go on. So there's this really important survey that you or your parents need to fill out about your preferences with that. Right now, they're trying to decide things like, the state of Texas says that we have to start sending people back to school in small groups starting on the 28th of September. And then each week through the next 4 weeks, we can phase in other student groups of the people who want to return to school. But they don't know right now how many people do want to go to the school building and how many are happy just doing, you know, the distance learning right now. So the survey is important. I'll send out another link later this afternoon, but I do think there's already one in the stream that I sent out last week when I saw it pop up for the first time. So do fill that out. That's how they're making some decisions. I know they're trying to figure out which student populations will be the first ones that will be allowed to come back. And they're thinking things like students who are having connection problems, maybe the first ones, or maybe special education, maybe kids in transition years, you know, like 5th grade, 9th grade, that kind of thing. They're trying to make those decisions, but they have to name the population. And then within that population, whoever wants to go to hybrid can start on the 28th. And then each week they'll phase in more students. What they're trying to do is make sure that we can still socially distance in the school building. So the way the hybrid, do you want me to talk about hybrid a little bit? Or did we talk about it? Yeah, talk about it? Okay. So the hybrid schedule, as I know right now, is that we'll continue with the schedule that we have for classes here in the virtual space. So the classes will be shorter than the usual blocks, just like we have it now. Mondays and Tuesdays synchronous, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday asynchronous, just like we have it. Except that if you decide to opt for the hybrid format, then you'll go to school 1 or 2 days a week so that you'll have FaceTime with your teachers. Well, not too close, you know what I mean? Not FaceTime, but you know, like proper distancing, masks and hand sanitizer and all that stuff. So they figured out that there can be a certain number of students per classroom based on a 6-foot space for each person. We're supposed to wear masks and face guards and all this stuff. I don't know, hazmat suits or something. So if you opt for that, then it means that they would designate 1 or 2 days a week where you could go to school. You can work at school. You can, you know, work after school, like at 2:45 and the computers. So maybe that's why they're thinking that kids who are having connectivity problems might be one of the better groups to start off if they've been intermittent with their lessons so far. So if you stay at home, it'd be just like this pretty much. But if you decide to do hybrid, they're going to probably assign you which 2 days to come, because they're trying to balance out the number of people that are in the building at any given time. So obviously we can't have everybody back all at once, because I think you can only have 8 or 9 people per classroom right now with the 6-foot distancing. And on buses, I think they're only allowed to have 12 people, so, or 10. So right now they're trying to get a feel for how many people would want to come to a hybrid scenario and how many people would rather stay at home. So there's a survey. to fill out so they can start to get that. It's a lot like the survey that they put out in July, because there was a survey in July, and right now they're going by the numbers from July, and they're probably not accurate, because now that we've started online classes, maybe people are okay with it and the numbers are going to shift, or maybe more people are like, get me out of here, I want to go back to school. So I don't know, but the survey is important. Make sure that you get your preferences known there. I should point out that whatever you put on the survey is, is something that you can change later. So if you decide to go to hybrid and you come to school and it's not working out for you or whatever, you can always change back to virtual. And like at any point in time in the year, you can go from virtual when you start to feel comfortable. Maybe you can go from virtual to hybrid if you want. Right now, nobody's talking about going back to regular school where everybody's in school every day like last year this time. I haven't heard any of those conversations. So down the line, right now, little baby steps, and the next step is hybrid. Are there any questions about that? Is there anything that you're wondering that I can answer? Or if I don't know, I'll find out. You can unmute or you can put it in the chat. No? Give everybody time to think. Okay, so keep your eyes open for that survey. If anything comes up and you have a question, feel free to email me. My email is always at the bottom of these pages. Plus I have a Google Voice number from school that you can just text me there. That's not my personal phone number, that's my school phone number. So it's not weird or anything. I get messages there a lot from my students that were in my English 4 classes last year and they're seniors this year. All right, let's move on to last week's assignments, just so that you can keep track and make sure that everything was done for last week. One of the things that you should have done last week is that you should have gone to the AP Classroom site and you should have signed up for AP Literature with me and using the code that's there. I did put this into the gradebook as a grade, and I combined it with the commitment form. So there are two different things. The first one is that you need to go to the AP site here. Many of you already have, and I checked you off that you signed up already for AP Classroom. And so that was half the points, 50 points for making sure that you're signed up on Google Classroom. The other 50 points are for completing the commitment form that Mrs. Sid, who's the director for AP, wanted everybody to fill out. So if you do both of those things, then you'll have 100 in that column in the gradebook. If you only did one of those things, then you have a 50. If you did neither of those things, guess what? Math brainiacs, that's a 0, exactly. So please do follow up if you haven't done that. Mrs. Sid has not sent me an updated list of who has done her contract, but I am able to go into the Google Classroom, in the AP Classroom, and see who is signed up. And so I'm updating that at about every day. I go in and I see who has gone in and taken care of it. So check your grades, and if you have a 0 or a 50, then figure out which one of those two things is missing and do it so that I can go ahead and put the other points in. Especially I would do that by the end of the week because progress reports on Monday. So I don't want to give people 50s or 0s if they don't deserve it. Questions on those two?
Miss, I tried to.
I think you froze. Oh, she froze. Do you want to type it in the chat if you can hear me? Emily? Oh wait, there's something in the chat. No questions at the moment, okay. There you are.
Yes. You froze. I tried to sign up for the AP Classroom, but it kept on saying temporarily closed.
Oh really? Did anybody else have that problem? No? Oh, give it another try. If you try it and you sign on and it says that again, take a screenshot and then send it to me so that I can see what's going on, and I'll track it down for you. They do maintenance, but usually they do it like in the middle of the night or something. So just refresh it, restart it, sign in again, and if it doesn't work, send me an email with a screenshot or something. I'll try to work on it for you. Okay, Also, last week you should have done one formative. There was one formative last week on Wednesday because Thursday and Friday were B days last week. So I do want to talk a little bit about formatives because you get a grade for them. If you go to formative right now, if you go to your account right here and click on formative, you'll see that I've been putting comments on your formatives. You can see it, maybe up here, there's a little bell. Hopefully you can see that. And it will have a little red number in it if you have a notification. That's how you see that. So I do comment on them quite a bit because I'm trying to interact with you in your understanding of what we're doing in class. So we don't have the day-to-day conversation ability that we would if we were in classrooms where I can just come around and sit with you about what you're reading and what you're thinking. So I'm interacting with you there on formative. Some people are doing kind of like bare minimum responses. And I want to tell you that that's going to end up affecting your grades over time. So I did put an example one on the formative for today for you to click on and look at. I talked about this at the beginning, but at the beginning of the year, you know, like everybody's got all their different things going on. So maybe it didn't catch on. But with these formatives, I'm kind of checking that you're reading. I'm checking that you've been thinking about what I've been assigning you, that you can use terminology, that you can communicate complicated ideas, and you have depth of thought, that your grammar and vocabulary is appropriate. So if you're kind of just typing in a sentence with all lowercase letters and generalizing about the text, I'm not convinced that you're working at the AP level with your thinking about your reading. I did put some examples on here that you can look through at another time. I'm not going to go through them right now because of other things to do, but just so that you know, these are some examples that got scored the highest points possible. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. 0 is kind of like you just didn't do it at all. But so if you wanted to see the kind of thing that I'm looking for, these are not the only answers. The questions are kind of open-ended and exploratory. So as long as you're responding in a way that demonstrates these items here at the top, you know, your mind is working on what I'm asking you to do, then you're going to be fine with that. But I think some people need to extend. I've been making some comments to help you specifically in that area. So people who've been getting 2s and 3s, especially, I've been trying to put comments to encourage you to increase your response so that you can get higher points. So the way that formatives get graded are twice. One of them I'll take at the end of this week. So you have the opportunity of 3 more formatives to improve your percentage before it goes in for progress report, and then again before report cards. So you should be able to see the scores that you received on each one of them. I don't know, does it give you an average? It does?
Yeah, like if you get like 5 out of 5, it'll have like 100%, and I'm pretty sure if you get less, it'll give you a percentage of what you got.
Right, but does it give you a percentage of all of them added up together? Like an overall percentage? No. Well, but I guess you could mentally look down the list and see. I have the percentage, so, but if, obviously if you have more 0s and 1s than you do 4s and 5s, then that grade's not going to be great. So I want to encourage you to improve on those formatives because it's helping me understand, how you're doing with the reading and kind of the discussions that we would have if we were having in class. So I put that on there just for FYI in case you're like, oh, why do I always get a 3? This is maybe explaining a little bit about that for you on formatives. What else? You should have turned in the assignment, How Setting Affects Character. That's the one that we did in groups last Wednesday. So your group should have turned in that assignment. Oh, that's going to go on the list too. I should add that. There'd be 6 things. I missed that group assignment. If you were absent, then you need to do that by yourself because you have a group. That's why it's important to be in class, right? So that one, it was turned in, I think, Friday. So those are the things that you should have completed over the last week. And I'm putting them here because I want to bring them to your attention and you can kind of mentally check them off. oh, that doesn't seem familiar. I don't think I did that. Or, yep, I've got all those, good to go. And then the way you can verify that is in the grade book, right? Because I'll put in the grades for each one of those items and you can double check them. Usually within a week of an assignment, I'll have it graded, usually. Sometimes I have tough weeks. I teach also the dual enrollment. So sometimes I have research papers and stuff that I'm grading, and or like I might have to read papers for you guys and have to, you know, balance things out. But for the most part, I try to finish within a week. Right now with formatives, I try to do them within 2 days. I'm kind of on a 2-day cycle. So this morning I was grading the ones from Friday. So I'm pretty good with grades. So you can check your grade book and see. I've had emails from people saying, I don't understand why I have this grade. And so I'll respond to you if you have those questions. It's perfectly normal to check up. And I think it's encouraged to be active in your own grading and make sure everything is the way it should be for your grades. All right, so this week you were supposed to read for today from the textbook. You were supposed to read character and setting. And I want to take a little bit of time to go through that. So if you have your notes handy, why don't you get those available, and we can talk a little bit about character and setting from the textbook. Is there anybody who's having trouble accessing the textbook? Sunny, did you get in or no? Sunny, no?
Sorry?
You did?
I didn't hear what you said.
Did you get into the textbook after all?
No.
Okay, maybe stay on after this meeting's over and I'll walk you through it and we'll see what's wrong.
Okay.
Okay? Is anybody else having trouble with the textbook online? Because if there's a lot of people having trouble with it, I can report that problem, and then I can also do PDFs like I did with chapter 1. In the meantime, it's new. It's a brand new textbook. We just got them. Also remember that you can go to school and get them. They were giving out the wrong books, but I sent a very firm email to the front office, and so they know that this is the book that you should be getting. This is the one for this class. So it's all new. They just give us access to the online like last week. So if there are problems, we can iron them out. But I don't want you to go the week without your material. So because then we just get behind in everything. So if you're having trouble getting something, let me know. I can zip a PDF really quick of the text that I have and so on. But if you don't tell me that you don't have it, then I'm just going to assume that you're online with it or you have your own copy of the text. All right, so let's talk about the chapter a little bit. These are the terms that you should have defined. I don't think these are new terms for you for the most part. I don't think that they're things that you haven't discussed in the past in your other English classes. They're the same terms that we talk about a lot in literary studies. So it's kind of a refresher, I think. Protagonists and antagonists are sometimes tough for people who are lingering with the sort of middle school idea that the protagonist is the good guy, the good angel on this shoulder, and the antagonist is the bad guy, the devil on this shoulder. And it's time to start realizing that in our literature, as we get more and more complex pieces to read, that the protagonist may be in the shades of gray, not the best person, and like a human being. Most people are not purely good or purely evil, and we're all gray in between. So we don't really think of protagonists and antagonists as good or bad. We think of the protagonist as the character that drives the action. So the protagonist is the one that we're following, the one whose decisions create the conflicts and that sort of thing in the text. The antagonist is anyone or anything that gets in the way, right? The antagonist could be a person. The antagonist could be an animal. If that tiger got loose over there in Puerto Rico, then that would be definitely antagonist in town, right? If the antagonist could also be the weather, or a character could be their own antagonist, right? Sometimes your internal conflict can antagonize you. You're not sure what to do about a situation. So we think of antagonist as anything that gets in the way of that character that's driving the action. Bildungsroman is another term that they talk about. That's pretty much a coming of age story. Araby is a story like that. So Araby is, didn't we read Araby for today? No? Oh, we read the textbook. So we'll read that one later. But coming of age story is where we have people who are kind of growing into adulthood. But that doesn't happen like all at once. Thank goodness. Thank goodness you don't go from 12 to 13 and then you have all the responsibilities of a 25-year-old. It's a gradual process. So a coming of age story is where we follow a character kind of through their growing up, and maybe they have a realization that pushes them a little bit more toward adulthood. Epiphany is a term that's used to mean like a revelation, a moment of sudden realization, and that can go hand in hand with the Bildungsroman. If you didn't mark that in your notes, maybe like draw a little arrow or something that shows that those two are sometimes related, because we have those epiphany moments, don't we, where we get a little closer to adulthood and we have a realization. I remember I had a realization when I saw that my mom, you know, mom sacrificed for us, right? And I never thought about it until I was probably 12 or 14 years old. And my mom had some summer flip-flops, you know, like those foam ones when I was a kid, and her toe was coming out the bottom of it. Not the front of it, because obviously they're open to the top, but the bottom was worn so that her toe was like showing on the bottom. And I said, Mom, why don't you get some more flip-flops? And that's when she told me that she would rather I had flip-flops than she did. And that was an epiphany moment in my coming of age story, because I realized my mom had been sacrificing all along, right? And she'd been, you know, trying to give me things that she didn't even give herself. So in a story, we'll sometimes see a character who has a moment like that where it's like the light bulb goes on. And so that's epiphany. Round characters and flat characters, I tend, maybe add this to your notes if you want to. A round character, I think of them as a three-dimensional character. We get a lot of facets to that character. We know sort of like the ins and outs of their brain. They're three-dimensional, they pop off the page for us. A flat character is like a character that we don't really know their backstory, we don't know their motivation. Some guy just needed to deliver a message and we don't care about his family situation. He just is a messenger. So you should be able to identify round characters and flat characters and stock characters, or sometimes you'll hear me call them archetypal characters. ARCHETYPAL, archetypal, which is the kind of character that's a flat character that shows up a lot. And it's the same character in multiple stories. You know, there's always the evil queen that's out to, you know, get something from the beautiful princess. And, you know, they look a little different in every story, but it's the same evil queen. And so that's a stock character. Or, you know, there's always the nosy neighbor, and the nosy neighbor shows up all across literature and movies and everything, and they just look a little different each time, but it's basically the same character. Direct and indirect characterization is important too. I've been asking you some formative questions that are asking you to do more indirect characterization. So direct characterization is where the text tells you she had brown hair. Okay, well, I can't really argue with that. She had brown hair. It helps me visualize the character, but there's usually not a whole lot of depth to that. The indirect characterization is sort of like the subtleties that are in the text that are helping me to understand that she's needy, right? Either the author can say she was needy, or he can make her seem needy and we get the clues from her behavior. So indirect characterization is where we spend most of our time, unless there's something about the character where their physical feature, their direct characterization is like a symbol, right? Like somebody could have raven colored hair and it's symbolic of their black heart, you know, or something like that. So you can sometimes take physical features and they turn into symbolic elements. But normally we work more with indirect characterization. So we have to read between the lines and kind of see what's the author doing. Is there anything else in the character section? That's just kind of like a brief overview. There were some passages and things for you to look at when you were reading, but is there anything else from the character section that I can go over for you? So that was an opportunity for you to check your notes and make sure that you have good definitions to all of those things. I added to them a little bit to help you understand. But now we're going to be using these, and I should see these popping up in your formatives. Start using your terminology. Well, the protagonist in that story, blah, 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 right? All right. Also, we had setting for this week. I think these three are probably the most significant. Sometimes we tend to be really superficial with setting, and I asked you some questions about the snow falling and things like that last week in some of the stories that we've been reading. But setting is more than just, oh, it's in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1945. We have to think about the time of year. The time of year is significant, and usually seasons are symbolic, right? If it's winter, winter is very often symbolic of death. I think we read that over the summer in our How to Read Literature Like a Professor. And that means that autumn is sort of like, you know, middle to old age. Summer is our prime, and spring is our youth. So if something's set in the spring at the beginning and the winter at the end, there's something that's beginning and then there's something that's ending in that story. I need to start thinking on that level to try to figure out what those things are. The author's not going to explain it to you because it's a work of art and you have to interpret it. So those little clues, though, are things that can help you. So think about the physical setting, which is where we look at, you know, the environment. Is it a rundown shack in the middle of nowhere? Is it a forest, you know, in Scotland? Where are we? And how could that be symbolic? Historical context is important. It's really important because we tend to take our 2020 mindsets into older pieces sometimes, and we have to be careful about that. I want to make sure that you have a note about that. I don't think the text talks about it, but I will. So sometimes we read things that were written or took place in a totally different time. And we can't go back and say that those people should think like we do now in 2020. The historical context is such that if somebody was writing in the early 1800s, you know, there's going to be slavery. There could be the N-word. We can look at Huckleberry Finn and other texts and say, oh, that's so racist. Well, yeah, it is racist, but we can't take our 2020 mindset of Black Lives Matter and throw it back to 200 years ago and say that those people should have the same mindset that we have today. So you really do have to consider the historical mindset. What were those people concerned about? What were their issues? We have our issues in 2020. What were the issues of the time period that's being depicted in this story? You know, we might read a story about a woman who is dominated by her husband. Well, if it's in the 1700s, that's how it worked, right? So we have to kind of say, it's not that it's unfair. To us today, it would be unfair, but we have to look at what's the historical background of that time. This is where history and literature kind of overlap, and your understanding of history becomes important in your understanding of literature too. And of course, cultural environment. We don't understand every culture on this planet. Part of my job is to make sure that you read a wide variety of authors from all over the world. So sometimes we'll read about cultures that we're not familiar with. And they might do things that are totally different than, you know, the American culture, the way that we understand things. So kind of like the historical context, we have to take the cultural environment into play sometimes. Some works don't do that. Some works kind of stand alone and are kind of universal. But if there is a context, we have to at least take note of it. And that's what that section was mainly about, was setting. On the elements of setting, I just put the page number. Are there any elements from your reading on those pages that you want me to touch on? I'm figuring you read it and you took notes and it's not a big deal. I don't really like it when I go into meetings and people read from slides to me. I already read that. But I do want to make sure that you know that it's important. Okay, so we're accumulating terminology. We're accumulating our terminology to discuss these different elements of fiction. This week, we are focusing on point of view and plot. So this week you'll be looking at those elements. And if you want to, you can look right here. Let's go through the tasks for the week. Maybe we'll get started on this week's chapter 2 assignment, which is plot and point of view. There are 3 formatives for this week, so I've been putting reminders up. I mentioned that early on in the session today. That's really just to help you stay organized. As long as you do the formatives, whatever way you remember is up to you. There is going to be a special session for seniors. I think they're, maybe half the class is seniors. The counselors want to start working with you on your Apply Texas. So this week, Thursday, I kind of tried to put this in time order. On Thursday, the counselors are going to meet with you during our class time to start you on the process of Apply Texas. Or if you already started your Apply Texas, they want to see if they can help you. If you have any questions, maybe you stalled out. Apply Texas is the way that you can apply to multiple colleges in Texas, universities with one application. So if you have never heard of it, then the counselors are going to go over it with you and get you started on that process. You have to fill that out before you can do financial aid. So before you can do FAFSA, you have to have the Apply Texas done. And so the counselors are going to help you do that. I'm also working on, for those of you that are going to do Apply Texas, you seniors, I'm also working on a project that should be done later this week to walk you through the college admissions essay. A lot of colleges require that you write an essay or 2 or sometimes 3 for your application, or there's also programs. So you can apply to the university, but you're not applying necessarily to the engineering school or the architecture school or the art school. That's a separate application. So sometimes there's another essay that you have to do for your program. So I have a project that I'm working on that kind of walks you through some tips and helpful ways to think about writing that essay that makes yours stand out and make sure that it's in good quality. And of course, I will proofread for you or read drafts, whatever, and we'll talk about that later. But I just want you to know we're kicking off the college application season for the seniors. It's super early, but that's just how it works. We'd rather start early and make sure that you're confidently completing those things than at the last minute try to get them done and the quality is low. So the counselors are going to meet with you. Put it on your calendar, seniors, so that you show up in this Zoom meeting. I'll probably remind you like the night before. I'll send out a reminder. They have some documents they want you to have with you, so I'll attach them. But I'll send you out a reminder on, that's wrong. This is going to be on Wednesday. Hold on, let me fix that because I don't want you to take a screenshot and it's not right. That is the old thing. Okay, this is wrong. This should be Wednesday. I'm going to change that. So it's during our asynchronous time, but it's going to be synchronous. Juniors, you don't have to come. That's for you next year. All right, our focus this week is on plot and point of view. So there are some pages for you to read. I did not make a PowerPoint this time. I did that the first couple of times to kind of guide you through, but I think you get it, right? Take notes on the bold things, read the passages as examples. So the pages are here in the textbook, plot and point of view. You should read the short selections that go with each, because each little passage that they have in there is demonstrating what they just finished talking about, if you haven't figured that out. So they talk about buildings Roman, and then they give you a blurb to read and say, this is an example of that. It's to solidify in your mind what they're talking about. And any term in bold is a term that you need to learn. So if it's something new to you, if it's something that you already know, then, but if it's something that's new to you, or you're going to want to study it later before semester exams and stuff like that, then you should make notes. And just like this week, I'll go over those 2 sections briefly when we meet next Monday. I think that helps solidify things for people. There is an assignment for chapter 2, plot and point of view. It's a lot like last week's assignment. You can click, well, actually go to Google Classroom and open your copy there. But it looks like this. So I've been making these drag and drop assignments, which I think are they okay to manipulate? Is it a problem to manipulate them at all? No? The ones that I've been seeing have been doing just fine with them, but these you can maneuver them around and point to whatever you want to point at, and then go into the box and add your commentary. This time, what I did was I combined character and setting, which are over here. Those are from 2 weeks ago, with plot and point of view. So your job, don't write on this one, whoever this is. You have a copy in Google Classroom that should have been sent to you already. So your job is to take these and move them and then write in the boxes, and you can extend them. I know some people were like, oh, I ran out of room. You can point them, move them wherever you need to move them, and then you can extend the boxes and type in them. You can also, I think you can change the font size and stuff like that so that it will fit. And that way, you can kind of in that way annotate the text. This is that story that Gabriel Garcia Marquez piece, that little short story, One of These Days. Did you like that story? It's kind of surprise. Yeah. Hopefully you like that story. But it's that same story that I asked you to read for today. And so the first thing to do is to go in and think about character and setting. And you can move these. There's a little bit on the next page. There's 2 pages here. So you might need to copy some of the boxes that apply to the second page and move them over there. You can put multiple boxes. I only put one of each thing, but if you have more indirect characterization that you want to make notes about, then you can put it there and, you know, copy paste and make another one somewhere else if you like. You can also move these little pointers around. So if you ended up moving it to the other side of the page, you can move this little guy using that little dot there. But I think most people are getting the hang of it. To me, that's one of the easiest ways to annotate or make a copy. I guess I could give you a paper and you would have to print it out, and then you'd have to write on it, and then you have to take a picture, and then you'd have to put, that's like way too many steps, I think, yeah. So I'm trying to do this kind of thing where I'm learning about how I can manipulate the things to get you to do this in-depth thought. So that's the assignment for this week. Do this after you read, right? So some people were like, I don't understand how to do the assignment. Well, read the stuff in the chapter first, and then the assignment is for after you've read that. I don't mind helping you. It's just, you know, help yourself first, if that makes sense. So that assignment is due on Saturday. Tell me, do y'all prefer like those longer due dates? I'm wondering, maybe y'all can unmute or put in the chat and give me some feedback, because I've ranged from Sundays and Saturdays to Fridays. I don't know what the other teachers are doing. What's best? What do you like? Do you like a Saturday due date?
Yeah, I think Saturday's fine.
Yeah. I don't know. Some people in my other classes were telling me that some of the teachers are giving them like their assignments every day. Like here's your assignment, it's due at the end of the day today. And then here's another assignment on the next day and it's due at the end of the day. I'd rather give you the week thing and you can plan. But then I worry that you do it, that people will leave it to the last minute. That's up to them, right? If that happens. I don't know. I'm trying to be considerate. I mean, we have work that we need to do, but it doesn't all have to be all at once. We're going to say, Renee?
Oh, I think it's better because it helps you manage all the work from your other classes as well. So if you make it due on Saturday, we can work on it throughout the week, and then.
Okay.
I think it's better.
I think also it gives you more time to ask me questions, right? Like if it was due tomorrow, then it's kind of like I better just get it done, and you don't even have time to try to get some feedback or whatever. So I'm in favor of the longer due dates. I just don't want you to think that you have to be working on Saturday or Sunday. Like if I make it due on Saturday or Sunday and you decide to work on it on that day, that's your choice. You can turn it in on Thursday if you want. So if you know you've got something going on and you're not going to be able to do it on a Saturday because you've got to do yard work or go visit your grandma or whatever, then just use your time and turn it in early. You know, it's available to you to turn in early. So I don't want you to think that I'm trying to tell you to do it on Saturday or on the weekend. So Saturdays are okay. Yeah. I like Saturdays too, because then if I'm ahead in my grading, I can grade them on Sunday. And by the time we have class again, I've already graded them and you can already see them in the grade book, depending on, what my workload is. But if I make them due on Sunday, then I won't look at them until probably the middle of the next week, because I'm planning, and then we have these synchronous classes and that takes up my day. But yeah, okay. Thanks for the feedback. This one I have it due on Saturday, so we'll just leave it that way. Now, the last thing, this is for Monday, and it's a reading assignment, and it's a little bit long, but it's because next week we're going to wrap up our first short fiction unit. We have another short fiction unit later on. But this part of the textbook is a walkthrough of writing an analytical essay. We're going to get started next week on our first essay. So one of the things I like about the textbook is that they walk you through, all I did was click on this one here, and it took me to the page that or you can just page through in your book to page 96. But I had linked it to the textbook here. So what those pages are is it's a walkthrough from sort of like beginning to end for an analytical essay. And we're going to be working on that next week. So next week, we'll be writing more than we're reading, if that makes sense. And this page kind of takes you through the, oh, it's working up here, the process. And you'll read a story, reunion. It's short, all these are short in this unit. And then a student will be brainstorming on a topic and writing their analysis. And you'll see their paper develop through that process, so that you can kind of see the sort of thing that we'll be doing next week. So it's a preview in a way of what we will be tackling next week. I don't want to say tackle because, why isn't my next page showing up here next? I don't know. Well, that's the beginning of it anyway. So there's a good 8 pages or so where you can read through the story that the person's going to be writing about and then see how they developed their essay. We're not going to be writing on that story. I'm going to give you freedom to write about a couple of different stories, whichever one appeals to you. But I do want you to read through that material so that you can kind of see where we're going next week. I think you'll be lost next week if you don't get a feel for the expectations of that essay. So that one, just make sure you have that for Monday, because on Monday I'm going to launch the essay, if that makes sense. Okay. Is there anything that I didn't talk about today that you would like for me to talk about? I had thought maybe you might want to go into the breakout rooms and start working together on plot and point of view, but maybe we just finish early today. What do y'all think? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you want to finish early, and if you would rather go into breakout rooms, then don't put anything in the chat.
Wait, miss, could you repeat it again? My internet kind of crashed a little bit.
Yeah, if you want to just say, I understand what I need to do, and we call it an early finish today, then put a thumbs up or a yes or something in the chat. If you would rather work in some small groups and start on the chapter 2 plot assignment, then don't put anything. Oh, look at it go, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, I get it. Yes, okay. I hope you guys can see that I'm trying really hard to be considerate of your time and doing just the things that we need to do. I don't want to cut it early if we need time together or explanation, but I also know that you've got a lot going on, so. All right. Well, if you have any questions on the assignments or any of that hybrid stuff or anything about grades or etc., then stick around. If not, then you can go ahead and sign off. And if you have questions during the week, okay, that was fast. If you have questions during the week, then contact me and I will help you. All right. I hope you all have a great week.
All right, likewise, miss. Bye.
All right, take care. Bye.
Miss, help me with my ebook.
Textbook? Yeah, we need to get over to the textbook. So do you sign in through Clever or how do you sign in?
I just listened to the link. So it took me there, but I can't find the Pride and Prejudice reading.
Okay. Let me see. How do I get you to share your screen? All right, see if you can share your screen with me and I can see what you're looking at. At the bottom, it should say share screen.
Okay. Can you see it?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So you have,
this is what I see.
right. So you have two options, right? You can go to the, go up to, okay, well, the first thing is to go to the ebook on the left. Right there. Yep. Click on that ebook.
Okay.
So then you've got your chapters. Right now we're in chapter 2. So click on chapter 2 there. And then like the next ones, like the right there before chapter 3 are all the sections that we went into. So click on elements of fiction. Right. And so you can see that we've been studying character and setting and plot, right? And this week point of view. So those, you can click on them and see the drop down of that. Yeah. So there's the Marquez piece. Now click on character. That's, I think, where you'll find the Austin. So there's Pride and Prejudice right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then if you click on that, it will take you to those pages in the book. Now you can also, like if you wanted to work offline, yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Right. So you can also, from that page, if you hit the home in the upper left, you can also go to where your name is in the upper right on that black bar. Oh, where is that? Try help.
Help?
Yeah. Downline. Okay, you don't have to do it right now, but that one will open. It will look more like a book. Yeah, like when you open it, it will look like a more of a book, and you're not using the internet for that. So if you like needed some, time, if you have, connectivity issues, then you can go to that one and you can still read your stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Let me know if you have any other questions during the week, okay?
Okay.
Okay, bye.